Hi, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started with the CPG panel. If someone could type in the chat and just let me know you can see and hear us, that would be fantastic. Sorry, I just want to make sure everybody can see us and hear us before we get started. Thank you very much. Okay, it looks like we are good to go. And we are recording, so awesome. So hi, everybody. I'm Carly Trimboli with Leonard Career Services. Welcome to our CPG panel today. So as you can see, we have some great panelists. We're still hoping Kayla's going to join us, but we're not sure if she's going to be able to, so TBD on that. And one of the reasons that we wanted to do this, Brian and I with Career Services, is because we talk with students a lot about consumer packaged goods roles, but it seems to be the area of marketing that doesn't get a lot of push from students and interest. You know, usually it's brand management or digital marketing, but this is such a great area to work in for marketing that's growing and provides a lot of opportunities for students. So we are hoping that this will be very helpful for you in considering some of the careers that you can do in the CPG panel. So I am going to try to stop sharing this slide, and we are going to move into introductions. So I believe that worked. And so let's, oh, hi, Kayla. I think she's joining us here. So like I said, we're going to move into introductions. So for the panelists here, if you could provide your name, what your current role is, any of your previous roles that you think might be relevant to our conversation today, and just a brief overview of your role in CPG as it is now. So maybe we'll go ahead and start with Emma. I think you're muted, Emma. Okay, let's go to Erica, and then Emma can figure out her volume.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, okay, great. Hi, I'm Erica Tucker. I am an account manager for Vestcom, and many of you may not know what Vestcom is, but we're one of those companies that you've never heard of, but as soon as I tell you what we do, will be instantly recognizable. So we provide any kind of price integrated tag and signage at retailers like Kroger. So all of your price tags that you see at Kroger, any kind of signage you see in the store that has a price integrated with it, that's coming from the company that I work for. So we work directly with the retailers to sell in those tags and signage, and then the retailers also allow us to sell certain tactics and content to the manufacturer community. So I work on the team that actually sells those available tactics to the manufacturers like Procter & Gamble, Kraft, Kellogg. So I'm working directly with those companies on a regular basis, as well as I have some split responsibilities for making sure that within Kroger, the category managers that are responsible for bringing in brands and items into the store and working with those companies that they know what tactics are available as they have new items to come in. So working with the category managers to make sure that they're aware of what we do, the value that we provide, and just making sure that they're educated and that they're aware of our offerings so that they can help their brands to do their best promotion. And then, so I've been with Vestcom for about 2.5 years. And sorry, that was a little long, but I figure most of you won't know who Vestcom is if I just say Vestcom. So I've been there about 2.5 years. I've been in CPG for about 20 years. All of my time has been within marketing services. So I started with Catalina. If you're familiar with them, they're another in-store marketing services company. Worked there for about 17 years in a variety of roles between execution, sales, working with both manufacturers as well as on the retail side with Kroger.
Thank you, Erica. So for students listening in, this is kind of one of those like hidden companies, right? Like you may have never heard of Vestcom. So when you think about, CPG industries, it's really vast. And if you're interested in working with Kroger, like Vestcom could also be an option. And I think Kayla has kind of a good story on on how she went from one company you might not know to going to Target. So Kayla, thanks for joining us. Do you want to go next? We're just doing introductions about where you work now, what you do in your role, and then maybe a couple of things you did before you got where you are now.
Yeah. So as Carly mentioned, I did start off at a smaller CPG company. I actually started off as a category leadership associate at a company called Advantage Solutions. They are located in Cincinnati, but they actually have offices all around the U.S., depending on which retailer they are working with. So while I was at Advantage Solutions, I was actually on the Johnson & Johnson Kroger team, where I worked on the OTC business. And I did that for about a year and a half before I switched to Target, and I actually moved to Minneapolis working in their headquartered location. For a year, I worked as an inventory analyst, which is like the supply chain business side of merchandising, where I was dedicated to the Who What Wear team. So I don't know if anyone knows or shops at Who What Wear, but we are in about 600 of our 1,800 stores across Target. It's a very fast fashion, fast-paced, ready-to-wear clothing line. And I love being a part of that brand just because like you can look into trends and really learn more about merchandising and Target as a company. And then in July, I actually moved into an associate buyer role. So now I work on boys sportswear. So think of Cat and Jack, boys bottoms and denim and khakis, uniforms, and then I also work on the art class business. So very roundabout way of working within CPG, but I think my introductory role into Advantage Solutions has really gotten me to where I am now at Target.
Thank you, Kayla. And you graduated what year with marketing?
Yes, I graduated in 2017 with the double major in marketing and international business with a minor in fashion studies. So I always knew that I wanted to do CPG or corporate retail in some aspect.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And let's go to Liv, who also graduated from Lindner in 2017, and hear from her. She's also another one who relocated.
Yes, and I kind of did the switch of Kayla. I went from retailer to CPG. So I'm Olivia Dully. I graduated from UC in 2017, like Carly mentioned. I currently work as a senior customer category analyst for Tyson Foods. And when you think of Tyson, it's not just meat, it's just meat really, but it's not just chicken. They own a bunch of brands like Hillshire Farm, Ballpark Hot Dogs, Con Hot Dogs if you're a Cincinnati local, Adele, State Farm, Jimmy Dean. So it's kind of like a wide variety of brands underneath the Tyson Foods logo. So I've been with this company for 6 months now, and I'm an analyst who basically supports the sales teams for Albertsons. Albertsons Safeway is a retailer that's big on like the East Coast and the West Coast, but not really in the Midwest. So I help basically give them stories to help sell in Tyson items for Albertsons. So I help basically support the sales team. Sorry, I'm kind of like not making sense, but I hope that made sense. But I just started this role like 6 months ago. Previous to this, I was at Kroger. I started as an intern at headquarters in Cincinnati when I was in school, and I interned with them for like 3 or 4 semesters. And then I was going to work full-time for them in Cincinnati in cost management. But then I learned about an opportunity that they were moving people out to Portland, where all of Kroger's general merchandise was headquartered. And so I decided to volunteer. So I moved out to Portland 3.5 years ago with Kroger and was with them for basically 2.5 years until I switched to Tyson. So that's kind of how I got where I am.
Thanks, Liv. And Kayla and Liv are both alumni that I often refer students to talk about their experiences, which is also why they're here today. So you can always feel free to connect with them on LinkedIn. Really, any of our panelists, obviously, that have experiences that you can tap into. Speaking of which, one of our panelists is hiring for interns for next summer. So Emma, you want to do a little intro?
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know what happened. I actually didn't change any settings, so I don't know what was going on. But my name is Emma Rowe. I am on the University Relations team at the J.M. Smucker Company. And similar to Liv, I don't think a lot of people realize what brands we do truly own in our portfolio. So a lot of people do just think we are that small jam and jelly company, but we are actually a $7.8 billion company with over 40 different brands in our portfolio. So we have 3 categories of our brands, which are consumer. So think Uncrustables, we own Jif, Crisco, some other big names like that. And then we also have a pet food category, which, surprise, is our largest segment. We are primarily a pet food company. owning brands like Milk-Bone, Kibbles and Bits, Meow Mix, Rachel Ray Nutrish, and I mean a plethora of other brands as well. But those are just the kind of big names that we have. And then lastly, my personal favorite is coffee. We have Dunkin' Donuts, Folgers, and Cafe Bustelo is another one that a lot of people tend to recognize. Again, more brands within that segment, but those are the big hitters for us. So we have a wide variety of brands, and really our goal is to feed not only humans and pets as well, but just really making sure that we help families thrive. And that goes beyond what's on the table. We have a pretty strong mission as a company as well. And so my background is actually in food chemistry, which is what brought me to Smucker. So my degree is in food science, and I started interning with the company back in 2010. I interned 3 summers throughout college within food science and related fields, and then started full-time upon graduation. And then have what I lovingly call my midlife or my quarter life crisis, where I just started to kind of figure out that wasn't what I wanted to do long term, and really did some soul searching. And thankfully, I work for a company that's very supportive of finding your passion. And that's really what led me to HR, which is where I am now on the university relations side. I've been doing this for about 4 years and have just really enjoyed the experience and really like to see our students thrive from the beginning when they're very nervous and green and new to the business, and then they finish up their internship and they are presenting these incredible projects that they worked on throughout the summer. So that's really what gets me up out of bed every morning. And had you told me in college that I would end up in HR, I would have thought that you were crazy, but here I am, absolutely love it, and hope to stay in HR for the remainder of my career.
Thanks, Emma. So, I think it's pretty easy to see people sometimes don't take a linear path to their education or to their career journey. But Deborah, I think you've been at your current role for quite a while, right? Or your company for a while. So give us a little intro about you and your role at Shankman & Associates.
Yes, I have actually just started my 22nd or 23rd year. I can't remember. This is only my second job that I've had out of college, which was, of course, UC. So I have had multiple roles while I've been at Shankman & Associates. I started in sales. And so I'll do a little bit of Erica's move too, because what's a Shankman & Associates? Who's ever heard of that? That really breaks Phil Shankman's heart when that happens, but it's just reality. But so we are a broker, so not unlike Advantage Solutions that Kayla started working for. However, not a multi-billion-dollar version of that. We are a smaller local company. We cover 8 states, and are effectively the easiest way to explain it is an extension of a sales force for a lot of manufacturers. So the biggest manufacturers generally sell direct, but I can tell you that there are divisions of those large companies that use brokers like our company, and also big companies that you would never really have expected weren't actually doing their own sales directly. They hire companies like us. We're a broker. So we represent Tyson. Tyson is one of our biggest lines. We represent Tyson into the convenience class of trade. And actually, the Tyson today that we represent was the first job that I had out of UC in marketing. It was Pierre Foods at the time in Cincinnati. And obviously that business has skyrocketed. And this was actually the second time that Tyson bought them just last year. So you just never know what's going to happen even when you do find a career direction. So what I did for about 12 years was I built up and led our analytics team. So, similar to, I think Olivia is working in analytics for Tyson now. So we have an analytics team as well. So, for example, where we represent Tyson in convenience, our team will perform analytical analysis and provide those selling stories for our salespeople to go in and get volume and place product. So, like we have the State Fair corn dog business at Speedway, for example. So we call on major corporate headquarters like Kroger, Speedway, There are 3 Circle K divisions in our market, MAPCO, so a lot of different companies and different classes of trade. I'm focused now on marketing specifically with a heavy focus on consumer marketing and customer marketing and digital. With so much activity going online now, we're really trying to reach shoppers online before they get to stores. But we also want to make sure that we're reaching shoppers when they are in store. So I also work with Erica, and our clients buy products from Vestcom and have new item tags that go on the shelves and things like that. So there's a lot. If you've been able to follow what I've said at all, it's all over the place, basically. So like Carly said, we're a company that you would have never heard of. We're kind of hiding in plain sight, representing brands like Tyson, the Tootsie Roll companies, Lindt Chocolate, Ghirardelli Chocolate, Haribo, 5-Hour Energy, Little Drugstore, when you get those samples and convenience of like Advil or whatever, the little 2-packs, all kinds of different brands that we're interacting with. And as a small business, which is, still a decent size, we have about 100 employees. But as a small business, it gives you the opportunity to work at higher levels within the company and with our clients. So we're frequently interacting with executive level leadership, CEOs, things like that of companies like 5-Hour Energy, Just Born, which makes Peeps and hot tamales, and Mike and Ike. So a lot of different opportunities and a lot of directions that you can go with an agency or a broker like Shankman & Associates. And I think that was it. But yeah, so I've been here forever, and I worked at Pierre Foods for 6 years prior to that, and prior to that I was in school at UC.
Thank you, Deborah. And you also did co-ops yourself when you were a Lindner student, right?
I absolutely did. I actually only applied to UC because I was completely focused on the co-op program. And that is, I think it's a fantastic piece of advice. It was back then in the Stone Ages when we used stone tablets to turn in papers. It still is today. Experience, experience, experience. You cannot overvalue experience. So getting into those co-op positions, internship positions, volunteer, talk to people, job shadow, do whatever so that you can immediately deliver value when you arrive, and that that's evident in your interview that that's what will happen. It's absolutely the best thing that you can possibly do, and obviously UC is best at it.
Well, thank you. I think some other students might share that sentiment as to why they came to UC, which is also why I love my job. So, and you made me very hungry saying, talking about all those brands. So things I haven't thought of in a while either. So, okay. Thank you everybody for your introductions. That was great. I even learned some things just hearing more about what you do. Before we jump into the Q&A, and for those of you participating, please type in some of your questions in the Q&A because I will ask the panelists. This is really supposed to be for you to learn more. So please share those in the Q&A section. And we're going to first talk about what is CPG for an overview, and then what is Network of Executive Women. So Deborah and Erica are part of the Network of Executive Women. And Kayla, you might even pop in a little bit too, since you have some experience with that. But they partner with us, with their college outreach team, to provide opportunities for students. So if you pre-registered for this event, you actually got an email from me this morning with an event that you're able to attend for free through the college outreach program with Network of Executive Women. So I'm excited because it's an awesome networking opportunity, but I'm going to share my screen that has a little bit of information and let Deborah and Erica give us a quick 5-minute overview of what it means. Let's see if I can make this work. Is it looking okay?
Well, we have our very exciting opportunity coming up on October 29th is what we're seeing on screen right now, Carly.
Oh,
our leadership, yeah. So I'll just real quickly talk about new and then kind of pass to you, Erica, and you can talk more about CPG generally. So the Network of Executive Women was founded in 2001. Obviously, the initial intention was really primarily about supporting women and advancing women in the workplace. So we still have a bit of an imbalance there. So one of the things that I think you might find different about the Network of Executive Women is that we are also very focused on having men join and having male allies. So we definitely want to support women advancing in the workplace. But one of the things that we know is really it's kind of like rising tide lifts all boats, right? So we really want to help everyone grow and improve. And we want to start early. And that's when we started getting involved with college students. And actually a few years ago, we also have expanded down into high school students to tell them about consumer packaged goods and about Network of Executive Women and try to get people's minds focused on understanding how we really can all help each other in the workplace. So in Cincinnati, which is, the best in the nation. We have 2 awards that say that officially, but we have won the best region. But the region that Kayla Malik is in now is certainly no sleeper up in the Twin Cities. But we have a lot of opportunities, and we'll talk about one of those coming up, that typically would be in person and allow you to network live with all kinds of people in the industry. But we also can help with just advice and career advice or opportunities, and like we're doing today, talking about what is there in this vast industry that's available. The other thing is that we have expanded now beyond just consumer packaged goods, and we're expanding into tech and into the finance fields. So we have like Discover, for example, MasterCard, several banks and financial advisors are members, and then getting into the tech field, so Google and Microsoft and things like that. So we can help connect you to people that work for these companies, and you can hopefully find job opportunities, but at the very least find information and network. And that is the most important thing you can do, is to make connections across the industry so that you really never know who you might interact with and how they might be able to help you in your career, and you help them. And that's something that we see a lot now too, is that as the world changes and technology changes, these mentoring relationships are really two-way. So we're learning a lot from you guys, and we obviously have a lot of experience in the industry that we can help share with you. So if you're interested in getting involved in new, our website is newonline.org. You can also just connect with me or with Erica. Erica specifically is responsible for the University of Cincinnati for Network of Executive Women. So just reach out to us. We would love to be able to kind of bring you into the fold and help you meet some people and learn more about what's going on. Erica, you want to take the CPG?
Hi. Sorry, had a little trouble with the mute button there. Sure. So it's kind of funny, right before this, Carly had asked a couple of people how they got into CPG. Were they interested in it from the beginning? I've been in CPG for a long time. And as I was thinking about that question that she asked, I realized that I don't think I knew I was in CPG until I had been in CPG for a few years. I stumbled upon a job at Catalina, which is a marketing services company within the CPG industry, but I didn't really have any idea beforehand that this industry existed. So for some of you who may or may not know, we just wanted to give kind of like a high-level overview of what is CPG. So it's really the industry surrounding the manufacturing and selling of consumer goods. So items that are consumable. So things, if you think about like food items, soup and cereal and yogurt, but also things like health and beauty care items, toothpaste, shampoo, cleaning items, things that you're using up on a regular basis. And so if you think about that, it's kind of hinged on two two sides. So you have the retailers that are selling the items, you have the manufacturers that are making and producing the items. But then within that, if you look at what Carly is sharing over to the left, you can see that there are a multitude of careers within that and a multitude of other companies that service those two sides of the business and that they all come together. So when you have a new product, it starts with market research, design, technology. You have to go through engineering, R&D to get something developed. You go into manufacturing, procurement of when you're going to be making an item. You have to get the items from somewhere that you're going to make those items. So that's another piece of it. Like, it's such a broad industry, and there's so many different opportunities within it. And then, you have the retailer, you have the manufacturer, but then you have the companies like Deborah works for a broker. I work for marketing services where we offer, promotional activities for the manufacturers and the retailers to utilize in promoting and selling their products. You go into supply chain, things like that. And then, like, as Kayla was speaking, it reminded me of how broad this industry has kind of become within, because retailers, Target used to just be more of general merchandise, and now it's into selling those consumables. And I mean, they've always had, cleaning and things like that, but it's sort of all starting to come together. So there's so many opportunities within the industry. So I think this slide over to the left does a really good job of just kind of opening that up a little bit and making you kind of think about what are some of the opportunities within there that you may not have thought of just immediately when you think of things that you buy at the grocery store or things that you buy at the drugstore. So I think this, again, it just really opens things up. And like everybody's mentioned, if you have a question about where an opportunity might lie, I think everybody on here obviously is a great resource for that. But that's kind of my high level view of what CPG is. I don't know if anybody else has something to add.
I'm going to stop sharing the screen, but if anyone does have anything to add on CPG to help students understand, happy.
Yeah, I can speak to new. So I know that you have to be 21 to start going to new events just because it's at the Cincinnati Casino. But I really enjoyed, because I think it gave you a really awesome experience to, 1, network, 2, learn more about CPG, and then 3, to see all the awesome women within the industry. So I think I really took that as thankful for Carly for introducing me to new in the organization, and then Deborah also, because I know that she was one of the people that was over with the students when we were there. So she was always a great point of contact for us to really network with and ask us our interests and who and where we want to see ourselves working in the future post-graduation. Because junior year, obviously, of college is very stressful. Not only you're trying to work on classes, but then making sure that you're getting those professional experiences before you leave school. So she was really a great hand in trying to figure out, where do we see ourselves after graduation and what is something that we're really passionate about that we know that we want to use into a full-time experience. So I would say new was really got me my first role actually outside of school, because I was able to network with other women that worked for Johnson & Johnson and worked for Advantage Solutions. And I was saying, I know that I want to work within data and more about corporate retail, but not really sure how to go about it. So that role was really a great experience in learning more about the difference of walking into the store as a shopper versus walking into the store working as a retailer, and how do people shop and the best way to look into the basket, and really learning consumer behaviors. So I would say that was something that I learned a lot that I could take into my target role. So really everything is connected. And even though the role at Advantage Solutions wasn't something that I saw myself doing long term, I think it was a very rewarding experience because it really helped me be able to dig into large subsets of data and use that to tell stories. So that was one of the biggest takeaways, I think, from that first role that really helped me get my role into Target.
Thank you, Kayla, for sharing that. That's really awesome, and I'm glad it's been so beneficial for you. And, for those of you listening, you know that networking is a really great way to get a job. So we actually have research that says for our actual full-time job seekers, the 2 most popular ways to get a job is 1, networking, or 2, an extended offer from an internship, similar to how Liv stayed with Kroger. So, just really keep that in mind and make sure that you're considering just being curious about what's going on. If you like certain classes, talk to your professor, talk to Brian or I, find out how you can learn more about that, because as you can see, there's a lot of people willing to help. So I don't see any questions in the Q&A section, so please add some of your questions for individual panelists or about CPG as a whole. But I'll go ahead and kick it off with asking the group, what skills do you think are necessary for careers specific to like sales and marketing in a CPG role? So what skills should students be building?
I'll jump in real quick, Carly. I think one of the most important skills that you can develop is communication skills, and being able to, carry on conversations with, obviously, like in a networking kind of a situation, being able to carry on conversations there that you can maintain and even further. That's a great way to practice, but the value of being able to translate what you're working on, and really I think everyone that's spoken today has done a bit of translating what they're working on for you guys today, and trying to do that in a concise and clear fashion. So that's one of the things. I'll tell you, like the first person I hired on our analytics team at Shankman & Associates was, and I say this lovingly and with much appreciation, was a straight up nerd. And that was what I was looking for, because, we're digging in numbers, dealing with numbers, potentially writing programs or at the very least macros. So that was like an absolute perfect fit. What I did not hire for in that particular hire was someone who was great at communicating all of the work that they were doing. And so, and ultimately she ended up leaving and went into a role that was kind of a behind the scenes coding and that kind of thing, which was really where her passion was, because it was not in being able to look at a room full of, like I mentioned before, potentially upper level executives, at the very least category managers or retailers, and be able to explain to them, here's what I know about our line or our product. Here's what I have come to understand based on all of the research and analytics that I've done, and this is why you should add this product to your set or expand this product or run this promotion or whatever it might be. So communication is really kind of like the linchpin in everything. So if you can really hone in on those communication skills, that will always help you.
I can add to that too. Can you hear me? I had to connect through my phone. I don't know what's going on, but I would just add to that to say just adaptability. So for us specifically at Smucker, we've seen a lot of change in the last even decade that I've been a part of the company. And so we went from, as I mentioned, primarily a pet food company. And when I first started with the company, we had no pet brands. And so just that ability to adapt and try different things. And I think all of us know products change quite often and trends change quite often. And so that ability to be able to evolve and adapt and be agile, I think, is really key, specifically within those fields, simply because you're going to have to switch and change what you're doing. And so I know a lot of our folks in marketing and in sales have no background in pet food at all, but when we acquired those companies, they suddenly became experts and had to learn more about that. So that willingness and the ability to kind of just adapt and evolve with the company and with trends is very key.
And then the one other thing that I would add is what I saw really beneficial in my role at Kroger, and now I see that in my role at Tyson, is really hitting on what Deborah said about communication, but just like relationship building, because my role at Kroger was to basically help the internal buyers, so the people who were buying general merchandise for Kroger, it was to help them use data to make decisions, because that's kind of like the way of the world and how we're moving from a previous where it was kind of like gut decisions or all relationship, like all through relationships that they had with suppliers. So I saw that I was most successful in my role when I was able to connect with the buyers on like a personal and professional level, so that then when I was bringing them, analytics and saying like, hey, this is what I think you should do with your category moving forward, they were so much more likely to be open to those opportunities that they could, make changes in their set. And that helps the whole company, right? It makes our sales look better. It makes our profitability look better. So we're all working towards the same goal. But if you don't have that like baseline of a relationship, then it's kind of like you're just another meeting on their calendar that's like annoying to them, So I think that's a huge part. I see that in my current role and my previous roles, that just like that relationship building is a really important skill that you should have if you're going to work on like this kind of part of the business.
Yeah, I completely agree with Liv. I think also the whole like data analysis and being able to interpret data is a really big thing that happens within CPG. So if that's not something that you feel like is a really strong suit as a student, but you know that like for your role, you'll be doing that a lot. I think working with your manager or someone that has like that type of background and data analysis background that's willing to help you is really important because you can use that in all areas as well as like all roles in the future too.
Thank you for all of you sharing that. And I want to press on that just a little further because, you know, Brian and I have done a few panels now, and aside from like having some of those data skills, a lot of skills seem to be those soft skills, which isn't a surprise to us, but students seem to really have a hard time communicating that unless they're in an interview, right? So what are some things that you would say they need to have on their resume to showcase that they can communicate to people and build that rapport and that relationship that's going to help them be effective in some of these business transactions? Any advice there?
I would say one of the things is extracurricular activities in college, or at least that's where I feel like that's what really helps me through college. I mean, of course, you learn a lot in your classes. I don't want to discount that. But I would say everything I've learned about how to be a professional came from my internships, like trying a bunch of different companies in a bunch of different roles, and also my extracurricular activities. I was super involved in like a bunch of different organizations. And that really helped me become a leader. And then I think when I was in interviews, even starting off where I didn't have much experience, I was able to talk through how those skills are transferable, right? Like if I was leading my sorority, then I was able to show how I, you know, like effectively manage teams and, I don't know, all the things that you want, all those skills, those soft skills that we're talking about are easily transferable when you don't have a bunch of professional experience on your resume yet. And I think that's really what helps me like learn the most is being in those extracurricular opportunities.
To piggyback off of that, and that is spot on. That is an awesome way to do it. And that's a lot of what we look for too, is those transferable skills. And if someone can apply those and see how they're transferable, that's even more powerful. But to add on to that too, is maybe just mimicking or taking note of what you value that others are doing as you observe in those internships or in those groups. But then also seeing like, okay, maybe that's not the best way to handle something, or maybe that's not the best way to go about something. So really looking to people that you can look up to and admire in the field, but then also some that you're taking note. And I know personally, as somebody in HR, I know that's not related to marketing and sales, but during this whole COVID situation, I took a step back and watched what my leaders in HR did to handle the situation. And I kind of put that in my back pocket to say, okay, that was really helpful. That was like they were thinking 3 steps ahead here, or I wish they would have maybe done this for us. And so just taking note of that and applying it to my own experience so that someday when I'm in a position where I have to do something similar, I can apply that. So you get skills, and again, not to discount the classroom, but those things that you learn hands-on and in student groups or in your internship, that's really what translates, and that's where you can get the most benefit, I feel like.
And knowing a lot of you are doing group projects, even virtually. So, you know, if you did the freshman projects, you were working with maybe 20 people on one group. So thinking about how you can position yourself to talk about those things, I think can really be advantageous. But saying that you like go to weekly meetings and that's it for an organization is really selling yourself short, I think. So find depth there, and Brian and I are here to help you with that, again, our panel as well.
I'll just add on real quick, Carly, as far as trying to be able to communicate that on paper, on a resume. You know, one thing, you want to be talking about what you have actually done, not like my responsibilities were bullet point, bullet point, bullet point. What did you do? So if your job was to analyze business and present to retailers, that's not interesting. What's interesting is I dove into data on lint truffle balls. Sorry, Carly, making you hungry again. On lint truffles, and determined that there was a void in premium chocolate at the check lane, and was able to estimate annual sales volume if 3 items were added at X number of $1 million and those items were added to the set and supported the estimate or whatever. So, something to that effect. Like, what did you do? Not what were you responsible for doing, but how did you actually have an impact?
Yeah, so important because, you can copy and paste the job description, but that doesn't, we know, like, maybe you're doing the bare minimum. We don't know if you're going above and beyond and what your impact actually was. So, again, you really have to think critically about what you've done so that you can get that interview, especially for students who don't have internships yet. I promise it will be helpful, especially when someone like Emma is reviewing your resume. And by the way, she isn't just looking for juniors to hire. So they look at all class levels for a lot of these soft skills. Okay, so we do have some questions in the chat now, so I want to go over those. So Jack is wondering how often you all work with the sales team and how does sales impact your jobs?
I will say, like, I work with the sales team on a regular basis. So our company really is effectively a sales organization, and that's kind of something that I've always talked about. Obviously, like I said, I started in sales, but basically, and it's probably the case for everyone else here, you're always selling. Like the goal for a business is to drive additional sales volume. And if you drive additional sales volume, then all of the cascading things happen from that. So I might be in marketing, but my job is to drive sales. Or I might be in analytics, but my job is to drive sales. So, and that's really, I think, a critical mindset to understand that what you're doing. So I've had situations where I've had analysts on my team that have really analyzed and said, here it is. And it's like, actually, like Kayla said, what does that mean? You just did a whole bunch of research, but you haven't told me why it matters. Why does it matter, and how is it going to drive sales? So for our company, whether you're in marketing or analytics or administration or order entry, any of that, we are always interacting with salespeople.
Yeah, so my current role is we have basically account managers or our sales team in major markets on the West Coast. So we have someone who sits in Seattle, Portland, NorCal, and SoCal. So my job is to really work with them on a daily, weekly basis to help basically provide them with the story that Deborah was talking about to help them sell in more Tyson items at Safeway Albertsons. So my entire job is to basically like help the salespeople do their jobs. So, sales impacts my job because if we do a good job and I'm providing them stories that sells in more, then the whole company is, performing better. So I would say that like the analytics side of the business, it works hand in hand. You can't have one without the other, especially now that retailers are more and more, they want data-based recommendations. Like I know I mentioned this, but instead of kind of those like gut feelings, like I think we should keep this on the shelf, which is how business used to be done. Now they really want to see like now there's so much to it. Like another piece of the business that I don't think anyone's really touched on is like there's this whole other part of CPG with like customer loyalty data, where like the 8451 in Cincinnati, which is Kroger's customer loyalty data, or EYC, which does like Safeway and a couple other retailers. But basically now that's become another part of the sales process where it's like, what are your most elite customers? How are they shopping? And how can we reach them? So there's just so much of that goes into basically the selling process, which means there's a lot of opportunity to really help sell more to these retailers in different ways.
Thank you. That was a really nice overview. And I think, shameless plug here for professional selling class or Jane Soika's Women in Sales. Really awesome classes. And in our market research panel that we did last week, they all said sales would be great too, because then, once they complete the research or work on a project, they then have to kind of sell it to the consumer, or, the business that they're working with. So like sales is going to touch any job that you're doing, even my own job, right? Like this is part of sales here a little bit, selling CPG careers to students. So definitely consider that as a potential elective or something that should be important that you can talk about in an interview. Erica, did I cut you off?
No, you're fine. I was just going to add that, I'm in a sales role and I work across a variety of other departments. So a lot of what I do calling on the CPG community is working with brands and customer teams and shopper teams. And so, I'm selling for my company, but then I'm also helping them sell for their company by providing a tactic that they can use in store to drive sales. So it just kind of everybody else's point, everything sort of ties back to sales. And you're all just kind of working together for this, for the same goal.
Great. Thank you, Jack, for that question that gave us a little insight into sales. So we also have a question from Natalie. She wants to thank everyone for being here. And also wants to know what are the biggest, most common challenges in the industry, and what have you done or recommend doing to overcome some of those challenges? I imagine one has been COVID, perhaps, but there's probably some other ones.
I think to my point earlier about being agile and staying up to date on trends, we just never know where things are going to take us and what the next thing's going to be. And so I think just making sure, in a Smucker term, we always say, like, just being around the corner, making sure that we are around the corner and staying on top of different trends and everything. And so I, as you all know, do not work directly with sales or marketing myself as a recruiter, but I know that there's a ton of just market research and different initiatives that we continue on a regular basis to make sure that we are staying as up to date on, what is it that we need to be providing for consumers? Are we providing what they need, what they're looking for? Are they going to choose us? And so I think that that's just a consistent thing in CPG because things do change. And I mean, personally, as somebody who's worked on products before, we see trends when it comes to what people are afraid of. Are they afraid of sugar now? Are they afraid of fat now? Are they afraid of carbs now? And so just making sure that we are staying, again, around the corner and being able to provide what people are truly looking for when they go to the store and are shopping.
I will say during the beginning of COVID, during March and April timing, one of the biggest challenges as a person that works in the area of apparel and accessories was figuring out, okay, so we know the guest is not going to be shopping in store as much because the main priority is on those CPG businesses, getting the toilet paper, getting groceries, getting cleaning supplies. So as A&A, how are we pulling back to make sure that we're making space and the priority is focused on those other areas? So it was a lot of work redoing, talking to our vendors overseas and making sure that purchase orders of programs that we were supposed to have come in during that April-May timeframe were paused until we figured out, okay, when are guests going to be shopping for clothes again? And if they are shopping for clothes, are they shopping for dresses because they don't really have anywhere to go because weddings are being canceled? Or are they focusing more on cozy business, like looking at sweatpants and sweatshirts because that's the main theme of what people are most comfortable wearing right now? And then now, with a lot of distressed retailers closing, unfortunately, due to shopping being down and the trends being down, it's okay, as JCPenney's are closing near a Target or as Justices are closing near a Target and the guest needs to turn their focus on being able to get those items, especially school uniforms or school clothes right now as kids are going back, do we have the inventory in the stores that would be considered fine if Justice was still open, but we need more now that Justice is closed? So those type of things is focusing on how are we taking the market share that was previously owned by a distressed retailer, but as they close, are we capturing is our assortment as strong? Is there areas of opportunity in our assortment that we can increase to kind of get that JCPenney guest or that Justice guest into our stores and looking to them as a clothing store for Target and not just a everything. Everyone always jokes that when they go in, they spend $200 when they only went in to buy one thing. So it's okay, are we making sure that they're seeing Target as a area of shopping for clothes and accessories now?
The answer is yes, Kayla. Whenever I go in, actually I have to go to Target today. But that is so interesting just to see how many case studies are going to come out of what's been going on in businesses the last few months. And I think it's interesting too what you said, Emma, about the different fads for diets and things like that and how that really does affect, business and what we're stocking. So that kind of led me to be thinking how can students consume these trends that you're talking about? Do they need to be reading the news? Do they need to be following certain blogs or listening to podcasts? What do you recommend so that they're up and up on some of these trends without just kind of hearing it passively?
I think the GMA Smart Brief is very helpful. So you can subscribe to that, and you can get a daily email with different topics. And so some will apply to, kind of what you need to know, and some won't. And I think that helps a lot. So the GMA Smart Brief, that's my suggestion.
Yeah, and there are lots of smart briefs for lots of different industries. And so I think that would be something that I would say is if you have even a little bit of an idea of what you're interested in, whether that is if you're interested in CPG or if you're interested in research and development or whatever it might be, just search that and put that in front of industry publication and see what's out there, because there's all kinds of different things that you can read and scan to keep up on, and certainly podcasts as well. And one of the things that I typically recommend if you think that you're interested in CPG is, go to your pantry, go to your refrigerator, go to your bathroom cabinet or whatever, and look at what products you use that you love, and identify some of the things that you're really passionate about yourself. There's a job there, like obviously like Emma and Olivia both have talked about, within what you think is J.M. Smucker or what you think is Tyson, there's so much more beyond that. So just find a product that you love, or a type of product that you love, or if you've had this big idea where you're like, why doesn't someone do this? Think about that, and think about the kinds of things that can connect you to that can lead you to following that passion, to connecting with people that can help you either reinforce what you think you are interested in, or help you sort of flesh out some different things and different avenues and opportunities. But there's absolutely a ton, and I think when Olivia talked about shopper marketing and consumer research, that is huge right now, and really understanding, also like, I think was it Kayla? No, it was Olivia again, maybe what people are afraid of. So one thing definitely people have been afraid of is COVID-19, and understanding how that messaging happens. So in our research around that, that was one of the things that we honed in on. It's kind of like the obvious thing staring you in the face, but it's the media. And the media was driving that fear. And, not getting political in any way, the fact that you hear on radio, TV, podcasts, TV shows, like everywhere, it's scary. And so people reacted to that fear. They ran to retail and they bought up everything they could buy and all of that, and have changed the way that they're functioning. And many of those things have stuck. So current trend is obviously people were cooking at home a lot and eating at home because they either couldn't go out or didn't want to go out. That trend has maintained. It's kind of right-sized, but there's still a lot of cooking at home going on that didn't happen before. So just keeping connected to industry publications and what you're interested in will produce a whole lot of interesting information for you.
That's a really good point, and a trend that, is good to call out is just the fact that nobody, despite whatever education they have, any experience in the industry, could have predicted this pandemic and could have predicted what happened in the pandemic and what people were going to mass purchase and what they were going to do. And now, we've kind of got a grasp on that, and there are companies, similar to Smucker that was a positive, because people, think coffee, peanut butter, people were really buying those things. But then now on the flip side, it's like, okay, are they stocked up on that? What's going to happen to us now? Like, are they going to keep going out and buying that? And so how do we figure out that threshold? So it's an exciting, scary, but new time for people in, marketing and sales, because it's a different world and it's a different time period of what we're experiencing. So there was that hype. And so it's like, okay, are we going to gain consumers because they did that and now they're going to want to keep buying it? Or is it going to be like, okay, they've got their, their inventory at home now of all of the products that they need. Is it going to die off for a while? So I don't have the answer to that. That's out of my threshold here, but certainly just a good example and a relevant example of what a job could look like in that, and how you can't really plan and prepare for everything. Things happen that you don't see coming. So I think it is, it's exciting, and certainly ever evolving.
This is really awesome banter. And it's just making me think, like, if you're in an interview or you're talking to somebody as a student trying to learn more, like, don't just say, what's your typical day like? Like, think about what you're learning about these trends or what you're just seeing in the news or what you're consuming, and design a question that's going to be relevant to the person or the company, because that's really going to go a long way to show that you're just, like, interested in the field more so than just Googled questions that you can ask at the end of an interview. So I do believe if you're more passionate about this and you do the research and it inspires you to keep listening, then that's a good indication that this might be a good fit for you. So always keep that in mind, because that's how people end up kind of pivoting their careers, like Emma has talked about with hers. So we have one more question before we're wrapping it up. Do you have any work, or have any of you worked in consumer packaging design or any creative aspects of how the packaging looks? I know Kylie, who asked us, does have sort of that marketing and design background, so I can see where this is coming from. So what are your thoughts on that?
I haven't worked in the specific creative aspect, but when I was at Kroger, I would work with, like, the product developers, who were basically, like, the people who were developing the private label programs for Kroger. So they were saying, you know, like, this is the sheets that we're going to put out that are private label. And so they were kind of the people that were in charge of creative. So if you want to go this route, I definitely think that product development is something that you could look into. But I know there's, like, a lot more stuff when it comes to packaging. But that's the kind of route that I saw it at Kroger, where there was that creative aspect and still working within the retail space.
Yeah, I would say at Target, one of the main people that we work with within our CFT, which stands for cross-functional team, is actually technical designers, product designers, product managers. So they are definitely, like, a large part of making the decision-making when it comes to our own brand process. So if you want to connect further on that, I am definitely willing to have more of a conversation with you.
And I have not worked specifically myself on product development or packaging design, but we do have one of the members of our college outreach team. Her name is Denise D'Alessandro, and she works on product design, packaging design for the Clorox company. So there's a whole lot of different things that Clorox is similar. Google Clorox, you'll find all kinds of brands you had no idea. Kingsford Charcoal, for example, is Clorox. But again, just like Kayla said, if you want to connect, I can definitely connect you with Denise, and she's fantastic. She's very passionate about helping students find direction and understanding, so she would be very happy to do that. As a matter of fact, she has done that very exact thing for one of our high school students and got him on a path that he wanted to be on in order to find the career and his way to it in college right now.
Thank you guys so much. So it sounds like you have a couple avenues to figure out maybe some pathways in package design, Kylie. So that's awesome. I'm happy to get you emails, or I can message the emails out to the group so you all can connect with the panelists. So it's been really great, like, hearing from you all and seeing some faces I haven't seen in a while. Are there any, like, last thoughts for students? Any advice you would have before we adjourn?
I just have to say, because I can't stand it, I think there are 8 students on here right now, maybe 9. You guys, way to go. So smart. Very good decision. Keep doing these things. Can you imagine, like, look around your school right now and count how many students there are that are trying to make connections, and there are 9 of you here. We have this all the time with Network of Executive Women. It absolutely blows me away. So you have an opportunity. We have 7 panelists, if you include your UC advisors, which you definitely want to do. You have an opportunity almost for one-on-one gains here. Make sure you follow up. Keep those connections. Follow up with each one of us. If you have a question, ask it. If you don't worry about it. Just say thank you, whatever. Maintain that connection, because sometimes something's going to pop up somewhere that you're going to be like, wait a minute, I remember hearing about Kayla talking about this at Target. So maybe I can reach out to Kayla and maybe I can remind her that I was on this call, and you instantly have that connection with Kayla working at Target Corporate in a super cool sounding job. So absolutely take advantage. You are like 75% of the way there by the fact that you've participated. Don't let the opportunities in front of you get away by not following up afterwards.
I paid her to say that, No, that was literally perfectly said. And honestly, I think between Brian and I, we know every single student on this panel, and they tend to be the ones that are already engaged and that we would refer to employers. So thank you all for joining, and I hope you will send this recording to your friends who are, doing something else instead of joining us here today.
Super quick, Carly, too, I forgot the new event. If you can pull that up and let whoever was about. I think somebody was about to say something, but.
Oh, yes. I'll pull that up. If anyone else has any last minute thoughts or advice.
I guess just from a recruiter's perspective, I just want to continue to reiterate the ability to not put your blinders on. You heard my story and the story of others. And I just think making sure that you don't compare yourself to others. I think oftentimes in college you get the keeping up with the Joneses where, people are comparing where they're going, what they're doing, their title, all these things. And I just think making sure that you are passionate. You spend so much of your life at work that you need to enjoy what you're doing and be passionate about it. And so that's just always my shameless plug, is just be open-minded. And if your path takes you somewhere you didn't imagine going, follow that. Do what you want to do and make your own story.
Thank you, Emma. And I did drop the link to all the Smucker's roles in the chat. So if you're interested in applying for a summer 2021 internship, you have the access to those jobs. And then I will let Erica or Deborah talk about this event so you can join another virtual awesome event.
Yeah, so typically this would be one of the events like that Kayla mentioned we have been holding at the casino, which has that cutoff of requirement of having to be 21 years old. So here's your opportunity to participate in one of these major events without having to have that age restriction on there. We are going to be able to invite 20 students. We will definitely get those recommendations from Carly and Brian about who we should be inviting, because we want to make sure that we're inviting students that are interested and engaged and will appreciate the kind of content that's being discussed. So you can see from this piece of information, Carrie Lorenz, the first female F-14 Tomcat fighter pilot. How cool is that? So she's going to be speaking about, I think that was one of the questions, like what are some of the most difficult things that you have to overcome? I'm sure will have a lot of stories about that and how you can succeed in life, particularly when you're in an area that is maybe not so populated by women. So hopefully you guys are interested. If you are, reach out to Carly and Brian, and we'll connect with you and get you invites to that. We haven't exactly figured out how we're going to replicate the networking opportunity that we typically provide live, but we will. So that will likely, at the very least, involve sharing your resumes out with 500 people or something like that are in the industry. So please engage. It's going to be a great event.
Thank you, Deborah. So, yep, contact me if you're interested in attending. You'll also probably see it in our newsletter. And if you registered, you already got information about that. But these events really are awesome. Like, I've seen Jennifer Garner through New. Like, I was, not too far from her. And the networking is really awesome, too, because literally, you just won't believe how much people want to help, especially when they see college students at this event. Because, even at the Jack Casino, there's, 1,000 people that go to those events, or something crazy like that, and, probably 20 college students. So, you get 18 on one. My math's not right there, but nonetheless, it's a good opportunity for you guys. So thank you all for being here. I'll follow up with some emails of the panelists. It was great to see everybody. Thank you for sharing all of your advice. It was really enjoyable.
Thanks,
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Good day.